Hi, this is Flash, let me try that again. Hi, this is Flash, the Squatter Hunter on Outside the Box with Flash with Squatter Talk Tuesdays. So want to welcome anyone and everyone who is watching this, and for any comments or questions, I will do my best to answer or reply to you. It's been a crazy week since the last time I was live. I've been to Nashville, Tennessee. I've been to Washington, D.C. I visited the White House. Took pictures with, I continue with my, I take pictures with law enforcement. And the reason I take pictures with law enforcement is to show mutual respect. Everywhere I go, I take pictures, and they support me, or I want to say mutual support, because they support me across this great nation, and I support them for the work that they are doing and the sacrifices they make for all of us and our safety. So at the White House, I asked the Secret Service if they would pose with me. I will post those pictures, but I got the same answer. I tried asking a bunch of them, hoping for a different answer, but the answer was, well, our boss prohibits us from, posing with somebody because they say that we are not doing our job if we are posing for pictures. And I'm sure they're asked a lot, by tourists. So I respect that. But all of them did say, but I can just face a certain direction and you can take a picture with us in the background. So that's what I did. So one was nice enough to turn the opposite direction than he was supposed to be, so that I could get the White House in the background. I thought that would be cool. So one of the things that it was interesting that I found was literally in front of the White House lawn, across the pathway. If you've ever been there, there's the metal gates and fence, and then there's kind of this cement roadway, and then across from that it's like a little park, and in the grass on the edge of that concrete and park area, right outside the White House, there is an encampment. Now, I did shoot a little video, and I'll probably share that at some point. But a lot of people comment to my videos saying, "Oh yeah, if somebody was to be a squatter at a governor's house or a president's house, or a politician or somebody with money, then they would take care of them immediately." Businesses talk about homeless encampments, how they're out in front of their businesses and they're losing business, and if it happened to somebody that was important, they would be taken care of immediately. But I'm here to tell you that I literally witnessed an encampment outside the White House, literally, I would say 30 feet from the White House lawn, and it's not being taken care of. So, I don't know if you want to look at that as equal treatment, equal justice, but there are tents literally sitting outside of the White House. So between Tennessee, DC, the hurricane, delays in flights, I am exhausted. I am not home. I am not in my office. I'm not there with my big screen. So if there's a comment and you see me squinting, looking to try to read it, it's because I'm absolutely in, because I'm broadcasting right now from an iPad, which is, I don't know, like a 14-inch screen. And I'm used to this huge, big TV screen, basically, so that I can see. And I refuse to put on glasses. So I will do my best to see it. But, I'm at the age where my eyes don't always agree with me seeing, okay, as much as that's the only job pretty much that they have. So if you see me squinting, it's because I am. I'm also exhausted. I'm tired. I'm at location right now. I'm in a hotel. I'm on location for a squatter situation that I have, where I am potentially going to be confronting a few drug dealers this week. So wish me luck. And, I will take all safety measures, as I always do. and make sure that I have law enforcement support and backing. I met with law enforcement, the local department yesterday, and I have support, and hopefully when the time comes and the intervention happens, they have the resources to send me manpower. So cross my fingers. I do everything I can to be safe. So it comes with the territory, and I know that. But being prepared not only for the job, being prepared to get somebody out is a no-brainer. I mean, it's without even saying. Obviously, I have to be prepared for every situation, but I also have to be prepared for the safety aspect of it. Okay, so that kind of brings up what my topic is today. I always talk about I'm going to share a squatter experience, or I'm going to share a squatter story. I'm going to answer questions. Well, my story today is in regards to my latest video. My latest video is doing pretty good. It's like 105,000 over like 3 days, and it's doing pretty good. And the story basically is squatters in North Las Vegas that were legitimately, in the law's eyes, they were tenants. They did have a lease. They did have, whether it's a fake lease or a real lease, there is an argument that a lease is a lease is a lease. So, yes, they had a lease. Now, how they obtained that lease, that's the question. And I believe that if you obtain a lease without the intent to fulfill the agreement of the lease that says you are going to pay rent for a certain amount of time, that lease is a contract. If you fraudulently sign that lease to, gain access to a house without the intent to make payments, you're a squatter. I don't care what the definition says. I don't care what public opinion says. I, as the squatter hunter, am going to say you are a squatter, and I'm going to treat you like a squatter. So I have family, North Las Vegas, that all evidence shows that they basically, either, I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt, either posed as a management company or worked along with a management company to defraud a homeowner. There's no other way to look at it when somebody moves into a house, doesn't pay rent, gets someone else to promise that they're going to pay rent, gets someone else to make up excuses why the rent is tied up in banks or transfers, and then the management company or the person that is saying that the money's coming and it's on its way backs out of the deal, leaving a homeowner with a tenant that they have no relationship to and no rent payment, and now no management company. So whether they set it up and did everything and posed as the person, I don't know. There's evidence to say that. I can't say 100%. All I can say 100% is they were living in a home, rent-free, no rent payments, and a homeowner was asking them to pay rent and they refused. That makes them a squatter to me. And I went in and took care of business. Now, they are going to tell you that we broke the law. Did we break the law? If I was a homeowner, they'd be absolutely right. The law prohibits homeowners from doing what I did. I wasn't the homeowner. I am not the homeowner. I was the actual leaseholder with a lease for that property that was endorsed by the homeowner making me a tenant. I exercised my right to gain entry to the house. They were told that if they stayed, we would stay there with cameras and a reality show. They agreed to move out. I have text messages with them agreeing to move out. They, on video, agreed to move out. They moved out. Bottom line is, the other evidence I have is in comparing notes, they actually were texting me from a phone number that the management company was using to text the homeowner. Is that proof enough? Again, giving benefit of the doubt, I don't care. Bottom line is they were in a house, not paying rent, no intention to pay rent. They were not even willing to strike a deal to pay rent. When the homeowner felt that they were being frauded by a management company, they approached the tenant, gave them an opportunity to say, you know what? You guys might be legitimate tenants. If you're paying them money, I'm sorry, but they are not in the picture. We want you to pay rent. And the tenant/squatter refused to pay rent. That's the bottom line. Now, update to this story. Last I heard, the homeowners, the investigators, the detectives were putting together a case to approach the district attorney to file fraud charges, along with probably a bunch of other terms that I don't even know, to try to build a case against these people. Whether they do that or not, it has nothing to do with me. Bottom line, I believe that they should be punished. If in fact they committed crimes, they should be punished. I do know for a fact that they tried to sue the homeowner. They tried to serve me at an address that is not mine. They tried to serve, or maybe serve, the homeowner. And since no one actually got served, they were able to go to court and tell the judge possibly that they did serve everyone, and the judge gave them an order to get back in the house. That day, when nobody was there to contest it, they got a judge order. That day, they went and tried to get back into the house. Law enforcement called me. They were told to leave, and they felt that it just didn't seem right. And the family, at that point, there was another hearing scheduled. And, oh, by the way, the tenants, squatters, were actually, from my understanding, from when I looked up the court records, basically under one of these squatters, there was a hearing the day before with a previous landlord that they didn't show up to court for. There was another hearing for another type of eviction that these tenants didn't show up for. So if that shows any kind of, an example of history. So then the next hearing, they show up. Now, my homeowners had gotten detectives involved, the FBI involved. Supposedly they are accusing them of running a racket in multiple states. Now, again, I can't say they did. All I can say is supposedly, and remember, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. But from what I've gathered, from what I've seen, and the evidence that showed me, that's the case that they're trying to prove. So the FBI was involved. The FBI showed up to the second hearing. They were in the courtroom. The judge was asking for proof that they agreed to move out. The judge specifically asked for my text messages, and the male tenant, they said, was kind of looking at the FBI, and right as the judge was talking about the text messages and wanting to see a phone, what I was told, because I wasn't there, is that, the male suspect, the male tenant, walked out of court. His attorney told the judge he'll be back. I'm sure he'll be back soon. He didn't show up. The judge wanted to see his cell phone to prove if the text messages don't exist, because they were saying that I was lying and he didn't have text messages. So that didn't happen. So the court gave an extension and said, let's move on to next week. Let's do another hearing. See if you can get to Mr. Shelton in town. By that time, I think I was in New York, and I said, there's no way, I can't be there. However, I will send you all of the text messages, because the judge didn't want to see just a portion of them, because what I had sent prior, they, they were arguing that they were fabricated. So I sent all of the text messages, no idea how many, and they went to show up at the next court hearing, and the male tenant didn't show up for court. So the case was thrown out. Okay. Ironically, 2 hours after the case was thrown out, I get a long text message from the tenant basically saying that I'm dropping it, and in the name of Allah, I'm, taking the higher road and all of that stuff. And so whether he believes he was taking the higher road or the case was dropped by the judge, again, doesn't matter. The bottom line is they were out of the house. They didn't have any recourse. They were trying to sue for, several $1,000s. They didn't get anything. And I'm not saying that they won't pursue anything more. Okay. So now I don't know what's going on. I haven't been in touch to find out as far as any kind of criminal charges. If I hear anything, I may update you in the comments or do another video about this. But now bring the video into it. I posted a video a few days ago basically exposing the whole thing. Since then, I get an email from YouTube, and you'll notice if you watch the video now, it's the very last one that I posted prior to this one. If you notice on the video now, the faces are blurred, and some of the information has been removed, and some of the information has been blurred out. Okay. I got a notification from YouTube that they filed a privacy complaint. Okay. Now, in Nevada, it is legal to film somebody, and you do not need consent. It's not a two-party state. You do not need consent to film them. And it's why my TV show actually wants to film in Nevada as well, because we don't need consent. But YouTube doesn't care about the law. Now, me having a lease for the property also, even in California, gives me permission to video in my house. So, but YouTube, they don't really care. And it says in their guidelines that they don't care what the law says when it comes to privacy. They have their own guidelines. They don't demand that I blur them. They word it in a way of, we are giving you an opportunity to blur out the personal information before we go in and check your content. And if we deem that you need to do this, we may remove your video or shut down your channel. Now, who wants to take a chance like that? Not me. So I basically blurred their faces. I removed some of the content, but now it only affects YouTube. So there are other formats. You can see the video, and all of their stuff is included on exposing squatters. It's being added to squatterhunters.com. So if you watch the video and you're curious who they are, what their name is, what their face looks like, there's some sheets from the private investigators that talk about history. If you want to see all that stuff because you're curious and you live in the area and or you're just curious and you like that kind of thing, you can go to squatterhunters.com and you can view it, and it'll be there for you. They will also be added to the national registry that we are going to be posting. The whole idea of this is to hopefully, in the long run, stop people from taking advantage of homeowners, taking advantage of a system that's broken. If the system, like I said last week, if the laws aren't going to change quick enough, then I'm going to try to change the system. And if I have, people that, are going to think twice about doing this, then I'll do this. Now, story's not over. So according to my people, I have received physical threats from this individual. And I understand he's upset, and I understand, he's probably just beyond himself, because by the time I blurred these videos, it already had 100,000 views. So, but to physically threaten me And according to my people, he's physically threatened me in writing. So I'm going to say, if something happens to me, I guess that's where you can start looking. It's sad. I mean, right now you've been caught. You've been caught doing something. Life goes on. You can make amends for it. You can, live an honest life and you can move forward, or you can be upset and you can try to come after me, as you apparently have threatened. I may share that in writing threat at some point. But right now, I take all threats seriously. And, I'm extremely prepared for that. I know it's part of the business. Obviously, my family, is worried about me. And, I do this because it's right. I do this because it's my way to fight back. I have always fought bullies all of my life, a lot of times physically. I'm not fighting bullies physically anymore, but I'm fighting to expose bullies that are bullying homeowners. And that's what I'm going to do. Threats aren't going to stop me from doing it. I know that what I'm doing is completely legal. It has been supported as legal from politicians down to judges, to police chiefs, to, department heads, down to the field officers themselves. What I'm doing is legal. And I think the hardest part is that attorneys and the squatters and the con artists, they just haven't figured out yet how to deal with it. So they're frustrated. And you know what? I know I rocked your world by exposing you, but come on now. I'm hoping that you come to your senses and you don't actually intend on trying to hurt me physically. And I can't use the words that apparently you said on this channel, although I could. I've had worse said on this channel once, but not by me. So I'm not even going to give you the time of day of doing that. I'm not going to spend any more time on you. As far as I'm concerned, you need to just make things better for yourself, for your soul, and for your family. And most importantly, make things better for your kids. Everyone that watched that video, tons of comments, feeling sorry for your kids. That's awful. And even if you didn't do all of the fraud and it wasn't you and that isn't your alias and you're not tied to that company, all of these things that apparently they're saying, even if that's the case, you still moved your kids into a house that you weren't paying rent for. And when approached and asked to just pay rent to make it better, you refused. You refused and decided that the road that you were going to take wasn't the high one. So, shame on you. Do something, straighten your life out, and do something for your kids. I'm going to thank Michael, new member. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the members. I do everything I can to donate and do everything I can to help people. But, the memberships and the different things that you do for me, it all goes to squatter victims. In many cases, I'm dealing with a lot of elderly people that, just because you own a home, it doesn't mean that you're wealthy. It doesn't mean that you have the resources. People are living with squatters. A lot of elderly people living with squatters for multiple years. And, so anything that I can do, I'm going to try to help. Let me try to read this here. Michael, you keep doing what you do. Michael, I appreciate it. I plan on it. I don't honestly like going out and getting squatters out. One of the services I offer is a virtual, to where I can literally just use my attention, my popularity, my news, my, I can use that and reach out to squatters and influence them to make the right decision and move out. And when we know who they are, and when they're a tenant, for example, and we have all their details, and or it's a squatter and they're young and they have social media, it's about 90% effective. So anytime I can do that and not actually have to go and get a squatter out, doing that it's not enjoyable. It's I would rather live with my teenagers than go live with a squatter. So I appreciate the support. Michael also says that this stuff needs to stop. You know what? It does. And I'm doing my part. And you know what? You can do your part by just being vigilant, checking on your properties, making sure that make sure that your house doesn't look abandoned. Okay. That's the number one thing that you can do. Put up cameras, put up an alarm system, make it hard. Don't allow your property to be irresistible to a squatter. You want to appear like you are not an easy victim, because I'm telling you, squatters are bullies. Now, we've all grown up with bullies. What do bullies do? Bullies bully the easy prey. They bully the easy victim. Okay? They bully people that they know aren't going to fight back. So if you make your property hard to penetrate, if you make it hard to know if somebody's going to be there at 5 o'clock, then you are no longer an easy victim. Okay? If you need help with that, we have a guaranteed service that is a squatter and tenant protection plan, where we literally, for $1,000 a year, we protect your property. We help you get set up. We help you, with removing a squatter if you get one, or a non-paying tenant. And best of all, you invested $1,000, and at the end of the year, if you have a squatter or a non-paying tenant and we can't get them out, you get your $1,000 back. So that's a route for some people to go if you want to do that. And then we can send people out and make sure your property's secure and alarmed, and cameras that we can monitor and things like that in some cases. We help screen tenants, do background screening and stuff like that. So, that is just, that is one of the things that we offer at squatterhunters.com. So, but ultimately, everything that I'm doing is, as Michael says, stopping this stuff. Okay. So, I appreciate you guys. I don't even know how I'm looking on time right now. We're at, 28 minutes. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer. If you want to ask a question in the future, or you want to do a live call with me, become a member, send an email to flash@outsidetheboxwithflash.com and tell me your story. And then I will have you do a live call in, and we can literally live have you on the phone, and we can talk, and you can share your story, or we can answer your questions, and we can do Squatter Talk live on the phone with somebody. So email flash@outsidetheboxwithflash.com, and I will welcome you on to have phone calls. I am planning on including some guests on this show also, soon, so that I can have somebody on here from law enforcement, or a squatter victim, or who knows, I might even have a squatter on here via Zoom to debate the fact that why he or she believes that he should be allowed to be a squatter and take advantage of others. He or she might have a perspective that, sorry, my mind went to he and she, and I was trying to think of something else, but sorry about that. No offense. They might have a perspective. They might have a different perspective to squatting and why it should be legal. I can only assume that the people that have disliked my stuff are squatters, or people who support the right to squat. And the other ones might be somebody that just believes that squatters still believe that squatters are homeless people, that squatters are destitute, that squatters are needy. And they just haven't gotten the memo that squatters are entitled, narcissistic people that have money, that have now saved 50 grand a year, basically on rent, and have real jobs, regular jobs, and in many cases, better cars than me. So they haven't gotten that memo yet. So they're disliking what I say and what I do. So, you know what? All right. Well, eventually they'll get that memo. So, you know what? I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys for joining me. This video does repeat if you've missed any of it, and it will also post as a video for anyone to come back and watch it, at their leisure. So thank you guys for joining me. This was Flash with Outside the Box with Flash and, Squatter Hunter. So I just want to say, take care, be safe, and remember, do not approach an intruder on your own. It's property. It's not worth your life. Take care now. Bye.